Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Cancer for July 2016. Check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see what's new on my blog, see about my Astrology Apprenticeship program that's enrolling in July, and if you'd like to bust out of the confines of your geographically based income, then check out my Creating Successful Online Business course, which is enrolling in July as well. So what's happening in July? This is a time for action, a much awaited time for action for anyone that has been monitoring the Mars retrograde cycle, the Mercury retrograde cycles, the Jupiter retrograde cycles. So now in July we have Jupiter direct, Mars direct, Mercury direct, and lots of trines, amazing astrological, coherent astrological angles, making this a good, very potent time to move forward. So I'll go into more details about that, but first I want to talk about something specific for Cancer placements. And the first thing on my mind for you is that most of you are going to have your birthdays. So happy birthday. I am a birthday freak. I think it's amazing to be on this earth plane. It's amazing to be born, and it's amazing to focus on the power of the birthday wish as a tool to create the life that you want. Do not underestimate this power period, people. This is just underestimated for what it can do. Power periods are amazing. And I have a whole video about this called Making Wishes Come True. So look for it under Annie Botticelli on my YouTube channel, Making Wishes Come True. And I talk about not only birthday wish power periods, but other power periods and how to phrase your wishes and what else to do with your wishes to make them more likely to come true. So check that out, and happy birthday. So the time before your birthday, there is a grouping of energy in the 12th house. When it's your birthday time, or when the sun is getting to your rising sign, which carries similar energy if you're watching for your rising sign, then there's this strong accumulation of energy going into your first house. And the first house is about rebirth and vitality and bursting forward and new and fresh and clean slates. But the time before you get up to that, the energy is in the 12th house. So the time up until this point for the early degree placements, and still current in July for some of the middle and later degree placements, is this energy in the 12th house. So if you have your birthday between like the beginning of the sign, like June 22nd through July 2nd, or that's an early degree placement. So June 22nd or the beginning of the sign through July 2nd, or if you're watching for your rising sign, 0 through 9 degrees is early. Middle degree placements are July 3rd through the 12th, or 10 through 19 degrees. And late degree placements are July 13th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. The reason why I differentiate this is because the energy will be staggered depending on where you are in the spectrum of the birth time range or the ascendant range. So, and that's relevant right here. So for some of the middle and all the later degree placements, you still have this buildup of energy in your 12th house. And this is the internal unconscious mind. It's all the things that you don't know about that are affecting your life for better and worse. All of your ancestry, DNA patterns, karmic patterns, your fears, everything that you don't know about, and things that you know about but you consciously sweep under the rug are in that unconscious space. So before your birthday, it's just so beautiful how the universe does this. Before you have this power period where you get to make wishes to get closer to what you want, you have this period of time that makes you ask, what don't I want? You know? And often when you have this pile up in your unconscious mind, your fears come up and you can see, I don't want this anymore, I don't want that anymore. Sometimes there's drama or crisis or things like that because you're getting to see what you don't want, so that when your birthday comes or when the sun crosses over your ascendant is still just as powerful in some ways, then you can ask for the things you want and be more clear on what you want. Anyone that studies manifestation or practices manifestation will tell you that the biggest part of manifesting, one of the two biggest things, is to get clear on what you want. You can't create what you want if you're wishy-washy about it or you're not very clear. So the time before your birthday is like a reflective time. It's like a time for sabbatical. And that's the 12th house. It's like going deep within, working with your psychology, working with past life, working with whatever things that you resonate with that are like those things that are holding you back somehow. So after that, the middle and late degree placements, and then right at the beginning of July, the early degree placements will have all this energy, boom, in the first house. This is like the baby energy of the zodiac. Something is born, something is new, something is refreshing. There's a focus on your physicality and your vitality and your health and your place. And what are you showing the world yourself as? You know, how do you see yourself? How do people see you? That first house. So I call the energy of the movement of the 12th house energy through the first house energy the phoenix, you know, rising from the ashes. There you like go through this deep process of dying in some ways, and then out of the ashes comes the phoenix. So this is what Cancer energy is working with right now. So the longer degree or the longer term transit that I want to talk about has to do with Jupiter, because I love Jupiter. I'm a Sag and Jupiter rules my sign, but that's not why I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it because it rules expansion and growth and benevolence and luck. And wherever Jupiter is in a chart, you want to know about it because it will bring all of these things to that field of experience. You can also see more about this on my blog at anniehelpsyou.com. Do a search, go to astrology and then go to Jupiter. And for the early degree placements, check out the information about Jupiter in the 4th house. And for the middle to later degree placements, check out Jupiter in the 3rd house. And I go into a lot of detail about that, but I'll give you some summaries now. When Jupiter's in the 4th house, it wants to improve your home and family circumstances. It wants to bring bigness to it. But this is relative. So if you live in a small house, many people when they have Jupiter go through the 4th house will move to a bigger house. If you are restricted by your overhead and you have a big house but you're a slave to the mortgage, then some people might have their expansion come through downsizing because that makes them feel more free. It's about freedom and expansion in the area of home, in the area of family. Wonderful time for real estate ventures, things like that, anything related to that. The rest of the place, so this is coming for the rest of you. You're just kind of getting this burst of new energy for the early degree placements, but the rest of you are still very strongly working with Jupiter expanding your 3rd house. And the 3rd house has to do with your communication, including writing, editing, publishing, things like that. It also has to do with sharing information of any kind in any way. It has to do with your vehicles, your communication devices, your mobility, your traveling, your movement, your physical movement. It has to do with movement of mental energy, including learning. And there are some elements of teaching that could be there too, but it's very much a learning and gathering information type of energy. This also has to do with expanding relationships with your relatives that are not your parents or kids. Your parents or kids could show up in the 4th house of home, so could your siblings, etc. But this 3rd house is specifically like your grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, things like that. So some people will see expansion come in those relationships. Sometimes Jupiter has to make something worse before it makes it better, and it goes so it like amplifies things to make you more aware of the problem so that you can do something about it. So if you feel a little bit of that coming up, then have that feel like a good sign, because if you play your cards right, then if you address the issues, which means you address the issues that are being brought up, you could come to a very happy resolution. Jupiter cycles are 12-year cycles, so wherever Jupiter is, you haven't had this potential expansion for 12 years, and you won't have it again for another 12 years. So you've got about a year that Jupiter transits each house, and so you want to maximize that energy. If you have been wanting to write something, if you have been wanting to do a project with your brother, you know, something like this, Jupiter in the 3rd is really, really, really wanting to help you. Also, if you've been wanting to improve your communication with people or upgrade your devices, July is the first month in a long time that it's fine to buy new devices, new vehicles, etc. So maybe that might be part of how Jupiter is affecting you in a positive way. Okay, so those are the things that are specific for your sign. And now I want to talk about the transits that are general transits that will affect you just as much, but everyone will also be feeling those. So I call this month Sugar and Spice because the way that the energies of Cancer, which are like smooth and sweet, come together with the energies of Leo, which are spicy, It reminds me of a recipe, a favorite recipe that I put together myself called Sexy Peach Pie. I haven't talked about my Sexy Peach Pie in a while. I think it's been years since I've mentioned this. But the month just feels like that to me because there's honey and the peaches in the pie, and that's like the sweet, sultry Cancer energy. And then I put cayenne pepper in it, enough to notice. And that is the Leo, the spice, you know? And so this is the overriding energy of the month. One of the most important things to know about this month for everyone is that this is a time to act. Unless, of course, your intuition says something otherwise, because you always have to have your intuition supersede what general energies might be. But this is the first month since March that we don't have influence from Mercury retrograde. Mercury's retrograde phase long past, and we don't have that to look at until August 10th when the shadow period starts again. And Mars has gone direct as of June 29th. So we are still in the shadow period of Mars retrograde, which means that Mars, which rules your oomph, your zest, your get up and go, how you use your energy, Mars is still a little sleepy. But it's direct nonetheless. So if you have been waiting since March to launch a bunch of things like I have, July is a wonderful time to do that. It's not as clear in some ways as the last 3 weeks of October, the whole month of November, and just the beginning several days of December, because that next window of time for action is when we don't have any personal planet retrograde influence or in shadow period. And that period of time, October, November, December, like once we're about a week into October, the rest of October, November, and the beginning of December, is the first time in the entire year of 2016 that we don't have influence from a personal planet being retrograde. Personal planets are the ones that are closest to us. So specifically we talk about Mars and Venus and Mercury because those are the ones that go retrograde. So you have a window of time here to act, and I have 3 reasons why I feel like this is a time to act unless you're intuitively led to do your launches in the fall, in which case that would be fine too. The first is because we're not having to deal with Mercury retrograde. The second is because Mars is sleepy, but Mars is direct. The third is because there are amazing aspects this month. There are just so many glorious aspects. Many of them are trines. Trines are 120-degree angles, which are considered to be the most favorable in astrology as far as smoothness and easiness and flow. So we've got trines between personal planets, which last like a couple of days. And then we have trines between a personal planet and some outer planets, and those last, you know, more than that, like maybe a week or so. And then we still have a carryover from the big dog trine from last month, the last week in June, where Jupiter and Pluto had their final convergence. They've been dancing in and out of this configuration since fall of 2015. So you still have Jupiter and Pluto, these outer planets. When the outer planets move into any kind of convergence, the effects of that connection last for a longer period of time because these planets take longer to move. So they're kind of just like locked in a configuration. And even though the most powerful time of the energy has passed, it's just recently passed and you're still very much feeling it. So trines on all levels. There's a couple of dicey spots this month, one on July 11th and one on July 16th. Both could possibly be jarring aspects with Uranus, so you kind of expect the unexpected around those times, jolting news, jolting information that comes in. But the predominating energy of the month is really smooth, time for action, time to move forward. Another day to pay attention to, or the days around this day, is July 19th, when we have the full moon at 27 degrees of Capricorn. Full moons bring fullness, completion, fruition. Sometimes something comes in that you've been hoping for, or something wonderful happens so that you're emotional in a happy way. But sometimes the emotions are stressful, or stress or drama. So the energy is focused around Capricorn, and Capricorn rules father figures, authority figures, your work, your career, your life purpose. So there's possibility that a lot of smiles and recognition could come in from this fullness, but there's also the possibility of attention being brought to a work issue or, you know, something that's been pending, that's been stressful. if you have anything with a father figure, with an authority figure, with someone at work, especially an authority figure situation at work, my recommendation is to work out the charge around that situation as much as possible before the full moon. Sometimes full moons bring things that we could not have anticipated, and it's just kind of like, what? Where did that come from? But sometimes it's like the coming to a head of something that's been pending. So if you know that every time you see a certain person at work, there's like a bad energy between you, or that you get irritated or stressed when you see them, you can do energy before the full moon to work it out within yourself. And one of the best tools that I have found to do this, and it works powerfully, I've done this at workshops where people who don't know anything about the book I'm going to recommend did this exercise and they had amazing effects. It's from a book called The Marriage of Spirit by Leslie Temple Thurston with Brad Laughlin. And these are wonderful people, and this book is amazing, amazing spiritual tool. The exercises in section 2 give you this way to work out a problem that's on your mind, where it's like a mental exercise, but then it's also a spiritual exercise. And you'd be surprised at what you can clear on your own without even interacting with someone. So the more you can do that before these points of fullness, you know, the easier possibly they could be. So at the end of the month, we've got a series of nice aspects with the planet Uranus, bringing creativity and genius and surprises that will likely be positive. The ones on the 11th and the 16th are those kind of unwelcome surprises usually. But when that planet is in a positive aspect, usually it's like something comes from the blue that's pretty cool. So something that is going on, that is pending for us to be discussing again, that I'm just going to bring up now, even though it doesn't actually go direct until August, is Saturn in Sagittarius. Saturn moved into Sagittarius and started, and this was last year, or actually at the end of 2014, this has been ongoing, and then it moved forward, and then it moved backwards, back into Scorpio, and so it's been going on. But since March, Saturn has been retrograde. And when it's in retrograde, it's more working on things in the backdrop. But then once it moves forward, which will happen in August, it's time to start bringing those things back into the forefront. So here are the two things I recommend involving Saturn and Sagittarius. The first is to understand that Saturn in Sag wants to help you bring about your big dreams into reality. Saturn is the taskmaster. Sag is the big thinker. They're not in an easy aspect with each other generally, or in a resonance with each other, but they can be very helpful to each other because they provide this important counterbalance. So whatever big dreams, big goals, destiny, you know, something that just seems maybe even unreachable, like if someone asked you, what is it that you really would like to do if you had all the resources and the wherewithal to do it? Those kind of big dreams. Saturn wants to help you in the time that it's in Sagittarius to create those big dreams. But what Saturn's going to say you have to do is to work hard and to be disciplined and to get efficient with your energy. That's a higher version of the energy of Capricorn. The lower vibration can be just kind of addicted to work and work for the sake of itself. But the higher vibration of Capricorn, which Saturn rules, which is why it's involved here, is that it wants you to work smarter. And this is a theme that I've been talking about for a while, and I'm going to keep talking about it because this is part of our evolution if we choose to accept it, where we work smarter instead of harder. We might also work a little harder, but we wind up working smarter. So if you figure out the dream, get clear about it, then make a timeline about what would have to happen in order for you to get there, and then break it down into measurable steps. So if you want to be a filmmaker, right, you would have to first get a good camera, right? Maybe you need some training. Maybe you need to be able to take trips to the places where you want to do filming. Maybe you need to have a screenplay. Maybe you need to, you know, whatever it is. So get the big dream in your mind. Think about the things that you would need for creating that, and then keep breaking those down into what you have to do every day to get to the big dream. And that's what Saturn wants to help you do. So here in July, right before it's about to go direct, be thinking about this so that you can have your plan ready. So these are the general energies of the month for everyone. And if you would like some assistance in using these energies and the ones that are more specific to your chart, which I can't see in the general horoscopes, then check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can see more about my personal coaching. You can also sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community and get the write-ups that I talk about with more detailed explanations of the aspects and what planets are involved, etc. And definitely check out, if you're interested in learning astrology and you resonate with how I teach, my Astrology Apprenticeship program will be enrolling in July, and my Creating Successful Online Business program will be enrolling in July. And I have lots of self-development programs on my website as well, and my blog. So go to anniehelpsyou.com, and I hope you have a wonderful month. See you next month. Bye.